Hello, hello. I got some questions, and I hope I'm doing this right. Not too used to going live, but I decided instead of writing things down, I will just respond to them, and the person that asked me can see them, and everyone else can see them. My responses to questions. Won't give the name of the person that did this. Question number one: how did you begin your journey in Nimpo Taijutsu? It's really kind of strange. My stalker, John Duvall, has tried to make fun of this, but I knew about the ninja before most people because I played D&D back in the day. And like 1978, 1979, there's an article in the magazine, Dragon Magazine, about an NPC called the Ninja. And so I started reading everything I could about it. By the time I was, midway through high school, I'd kind of given it up, but I kept the books. Then, when I went to Japan as a student, I thought, well, there's a lot of history that I might want to read about. Went back to America, pulled out the old books, got kind of interested, and found a class. Made it to Japan, spent 15 years there, and that's basically how I started. Okay, so number two, what does nin mean to you personally, in or outside of combat? Um, it means endurance, doing the thing that needs to be done, no matter how hard or such like that. I mean, and it's nothing. It's everyone concentrates on the big things, the big sacrifices, but really, in my opinion, it's a guy that has to get up every day for a job that he hates because he has to take care of his kids, the person taking care of a spouse dying of cancer, the person that is works at a hospice or something that needs to be done, but it's not you're not going to be famous, you're not going to get a lot of glory. Again, it's the ninja did not call attention to themselves, so it's anyone that's trying to seek to be the head of the ninja community or whatever like that, just got the wrong idea. I mean, Soke Masahaki Hatsumi kind of had fame thrust upon him. Okay, let's put it like that. Three, can you share a moment where Nimpo principles guide your actions or decisions in daily life? No, I can't. Basic reason is that I've studied this so long that I don't think that what I am, what I am has been influenced by Nimpo, but it's not the only thing. And what has been influenced by Nimpo and what is not, it's kind of blurred the line. So I make a decision. I don't know where it comes from. Okay, don't really care. Um, Number four, how do you balance preserving tradition with modern teachings or adaptations? Okay, so this is it. The art is old and the principles are old. Some of the applications might not be, like drawing a sword from somebody else's scabbards. That the applications might not be mm, relevant in the days, but the 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 stuff behind it. I mean, using gravity. I mean, geez. I mean, Hicho. I mean, if you see my video on Hicho, it's dropping down, thinking like it's spring, and then springing up. You know, I'm kind of known among my students. Against punch against typical uppercut, go from hoko, drop down to do it, and then pop back up. It's if you're willing to do that, willing to just explore things. But I think first of all, you have to understand how people on the street actually fight. Don't worry too much about the ring. Worry about how a meth head attacks with a knife, and it's a bit different from most things like that. And then try to figure out what you're doing once you know these principles to do it. Again, ninja use shuriken. I use a modern version of shuriken. It's called a Glock. Okay, usually carry it. So yeah, okay. So number five, what role do philosophy, ethics, or spiritual concept play in your practice or teaching? Okay, let me get into this a bit. Okay, yeah, it's cold outside, and we have a law in Colorado saying that if it's snowing outside, which it is, you have to drink. I don't make the law. Okay, um, so I don't think that Nimpo really needs to teach philosophy or anything like that per se. Of course, there is some, in the Bansen Shukai, which I've translated, about things that are very precise. I mean, there's a story about, story after story of people that did things that basically made them look like sissies, cowards, because they had a bigger goal to reach, and they could not sacrifice, a little bit. They had to sacrifice pride for the ultimate goal. So if you're talking about ninjutsu philosophy, yes, there is some things, and I have thought about that. I mean, you know, there are things more important than me, and I have to put aside certain things to make these things happen, in order to make a better world for my children. It can't be about me. It has to be about my children. And that's my basic philosophy. How does it help my children? Um, you know, Ideally, create a world where everything is great. Everyone gets along. There's justice, stuff like that. But ultimately, if it comes down to, you or my children, sorry, I feel bad about it afterwards. But yeah, and it's a very simple philosophy. But I think that philosophy in general has to be studied, and morals have to be developed. Basically, because you do not hand a gun to a kid. You do not let a psychopath have a knife. Um, the stuff that we teach is dangerous, and it can be easily misused. I mean, I know at least two different ways of snapping someone's neck. And yeah, I can go from here to snapping your neck before you even realize I'm moving. It's a simple move. It takes a lot of skill to set up, but I'm not going to teach that to someone who's kind of like twitchy. I always do a background check on students. Not a full background check. I do keep that option. I do tell people, I will take you down to a gun store and have them do a background check on you. I've never done that, basically because if I feel so much about, so much concern about them, that I'm thinking about that, they're not going to go through. But again, when someone sends them in, I look up their name with certain words like arrest or, assault, something like that, and find out what I can, talk to them. I actually had one person contact me, wanted to train, did a search of his name, came up with a story about how he shot up a car. And I emailed him back and says, okay, first question, have you ever been arrested for anything? His response, I've never been convicted of any crime. Yeah, okay. Obviously, that ended right there. Later on, I found out he was taking a online martial arts course from ninjutsu. So yeah, another reason why I hate online courses. Not that he's probably learning anything very skillful from an online course, but yeah. So yeah, philosophy is important. Morals are important, just because this is such a danger. I mean, again, you do not hand a gun to a child. You want mature people. I don't even teach kids because, you know, kids are expected to fight, and fighting is a little bit different from what we should be doing. I mean, we're survivors. We are attackers if we need to attack. We don't do the socially acceptable types of stuff. I mean, fingers in the eye. I mentioned neck snapping. Can you imagine your kid getting into a schoolyard fight at 12 years old and snapping the neck of some fellow uh, schoolmate? No, 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 no. So yeah, philosophy is important, but I don't think that we need to go exclusively with Nimpo philosophy. Again, some stuff from the Bansen Shukai have influenced me, but I think I'm more influenced by the Stoic philosophers. I read philosophy every day, and that if it's a good philosophy, it's a good philosophy. It doesn't have to be Nimpo. So yeah, okay. Um, Okay, number 6. This is where it's going to get interesting. In your view, how should modern practitioners measure progress in the art? It's difficult, very difficult indeed. Mainly because again, it's you tend to not again you improve say this much day after day after day after day after day as you practice, but the percentage wise changes. And that, let me explain. So let's say you get 100 points a day of practice. You practice or you go to class. Okay, so you got 100 points, or say $1. Let's just say $1. So first day, $1. Wow. Okay, went from nothing to $1. Next day, $2. Oh, you've doubled your abilities in one day. Okay. And of course, the percentage of it goes up. But even like 10 days later, you're 1,000% better than you were the first day. But I want to show this off. Okay. So this is a t-shirt that I got from the 1990 Atlanta Taikai. This is where the Taikai that I got my black belt just before it. So that was 35 years ago. 35 times 365. You can imagine that that 100 points is just a very, very small percentage of what I'm doing. But I keep practicing every day. I do between an hour and 20 minutes and an hour and 25 minutes every day. It comes to about 10 hours a week. And yeah, it does keep me improving, but it's not as visible. So I think people, instead of measuring progress, just keep going. That's what Hatsumi Sensei has said. Just keep going. Again, and it gets more complicated than this. Again, I don't make the laws. Some of the times that I have improved the most were the most frustrating that I have ever experienced. Okay. This is why I'm doing this live instead of typing this stuff out. When I was living in Japan, there was one practitioner, a Japanese practitioner, and people told me, oh, he hates Gaijin. He hates foreigners. Gaijin being non-Japanese, barbarians, more you guys than me. But anyways, so people said he hated Gaijin. I was like, okay, but I practiced with him, because sometimes you just don't have, a thing. And he never really was nasty to me. The biggest thing that I can remember that, before what the story I'm going to tell is that during Koku, again, Koku, the attack is you throw a punch, you hit it off and like that. Then he throws a kick and you respond to the kick with a kirikaeshi. And he throws a punch and I do the thing. I do a kirikaeshi. He's still standing there. And he kind of gives me a dirty look. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm not reacting to attacks. I'm going through the motions. Okay, fine. Sometime later, I remember this was the year, I think this was the year of Shinden Fudoru, and I was going to his teacher, Somea Sensei, and he was like, the kata were being taught in order. And so he was like, okay, prepare you for the next thing that Hatsumi Sensei is going to be teaching. And this was a response against a judo type throw. So Somea Sensei, instead of showing the technique exclusively, he had us go through this throw, this judo throw, and just get this judo throw down. And, boom, we spent like half the class at least learning how to do this judo throw. So, again, next night, that was a Monday night. Tuesday night, I'm at Ayase and team up with him. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to practice my judo throw on him. And I come up and I do it just as I've been shown. And he goes thump on the ground. He didn't try to do the technique. And he looks up and goes, you really are doing this for real. Because, you've seen people do judo throws and, the thing, and there's like, these throws have nothing to do with it. And that was a good thing, but he started to not let me get away with anything. If there was the smallest mistake, the technique would not work. I could not get it to work. And he would tell me what to do and all that. And it's like, and one of the most frustrating things is when you know what you should do, but you can't do it. Your body refuses to do it. And it was really frustrating. But I kept going back to class and I said, I'm not going to let these guys, chase me from the dojo. I'm going to get this down if it kills me or them, preferably them. And I kept going back frustrated. I would drive back from class with my teeth grinding, and it was not fun, but it was, in retrospect, the area of my training where I grew the most. So it's hard to really, again, I was frustrated. I didn't think I could do anything. I thought I was just 2 left feet and all that. But again, later on, I was told this, we were talking about a former student of Hatsumi Sensei who's gone off and done his own thing. And, two different Japanese said, yeah, well, you're better than he ever was. And this was like right about the end of this period. And I'm like, oh, okay. that kind of made up for it a bit. So yeah, um, the I the when you're frustrated, that's usually a time of great growth. Progress rarely finds you in your comfort zone. People talk about how training people helps you understand the art better to a limited extent. I've done the training in Japan that frustrated the hell out of me. I've done teaching. Without a doubt, I can say unequivocally the time that I was ready to put my fist through a wall in frustration was a time that I grew most. And it was only visible in retrospect. Okay. And that's what scares me about my training now is that I am not being pushed. I am not, you know, I don't have a little guy that smiles and like no, that's not it. And that's what I need. That's what I really need. That's what we all need. I mean, again, if you're not feeling frustrated, you're probably not pushing yourself enough. Okay. That's how you should measure your progress is, you know, am I going up against something that's challenging me? And, every so often you get a little bit better and you look back, oh, okay, I don't suck as much as I did. This is why, again, question number 6 is a bit going into detail. And so that, yeah, that's it. But if you think you're great, you probably suck. And if you think you suck, you're probably getting a lot better. And that's just the way it is. Okay. Okay. Last question, number 7. Any advice for future generations or practitioners or researchers of NIMPO? Okay. Start with researchers. Start with the basics. If you want to research ninjutsu history or the philosophy or anything like that, start with basic Japanese culture, Japanese history, stuff like that. Understand what's going on. Again, all the stuff is not in a vacuum. If you pick up a book in Japanese about the Japanese history, they already assume that you know as much about Japanese history as, say, Americans know about George Washington or the British know about the Battle of Hastings. They are not going to go back and fill in these gaps. So, again, there's some good translations out there, but sometimes they don't fill in the gaps and you don't understand things. That's what I try to do with my books, like Shadow Spirituality, on the religious influences on ninjutsu, is that I go through and I explain, well, this is Son Goku. This is, what influenced this. This is why, you don't put, fox figurines on your kamiza in the dojo, things like that. But, again, it's better if you understand this yourself. Now, as for practitioners, if you're watching this and thinking, "Oh, I want to take a class," but nobody near me, do not try to go online and learn lessons. You will have mistakes, and the more you practice, the more those mistakes will become a habit that hard to get rid of. Okay. Um, Instead, I would say go out and find something like Feldenkrais, or take a class in dance. Trust me, dance is great exercise. It teaches you to use your body. In high school, I joined the dance class. It was 17 girls and me. Mama Rolly did not raise any idiots. But again, just learn some ways to use your body. And then when the teacher is ready, then you'll be ready for it. Research the teacher too. Um, Always, find someone who is always pushing himself. He's going to train, he's not just, setting himself up as a teacher. Research his devotion, because I gotta say that I know some very good Bujinkan practitioners in the Bujinkan. Some people that are really good at teaching, some people that are very skilled, some people are good hearts, and there are a hell of a lot of people that I want to put up against the wall and shoot. Okay. And yeah, this is why they call me Dr. House of the Bujinkan. Okay. So yeah, and again, if you're practicing, find out ways of challenging yourself, find out ways of getting frustration, find out ways of having your nose pushed into your mistakes. I live in the city that has the Olympic Training Center, and I've heard this that the best teachers they found, they've put a lot of research into training people. the best coaches and teachers are not those that praise people, and they're not people that scream at people that make mistakes. They're people that just come along and they like point out what you're doing wrong dispassionately, no emotions. Like, yeah, you need to keep your hand up. And that's how my teachers in Japan taught me. They didn't scream at me. They didn't do a lot of praise. I did live in fear of their disappointed look. I mean, they just come by and just and walk on. I hated that, and it pushed me. So yeah, look for people that put things out. Don't worry about praise and stuff like that. And again, just a story from Japan. About 7, 8 years into my stay in Japan, I'm with my first teacher there, and he, quietly, he's using me to translate, and he says, like, yeah, when Rolly got here, he always had the bad habit of dropping his hand down by his hip instead of covering his upper body and face. And I turned to him and go, I don't remember you pointing that out to me. He goes, no, we just punched you in the face until you stopped doing it. And well, yeah, that I kind of remember. Anyways, so I'm going to wrap this up right now. I hope this, answers questions. The guy that sent it to me, he's going to have a hell of a lot trying to summarize or, put it all into writing. But maybe he could just summarize the basics things. And I'm going to cut it off here. And again, thank you for watching. And I hope I help people because I owe so much to people like Nagase Sensei, Somea Sensei, especially Aguri Sensei, Noguchi Sensei, Nagato Sensei, all the other teachers that have helped me over this year. And I want to give back. And, I don't want to, set myself up as a teacher, but if I can give advice and say, again, seek out people that frustrate you and point out your mistakes instead of patting you on the back, then maybe I'll help out a bit. Anyways, stay safe. And if you're in Colorado, be careful on the roads. It's hell out there.